always talk to your friends and family as though they're a VC and they're giving you a £1 million.
Yeah.
You know, tell them about the ambition, tell them about be sincere, be serious about it, and tell them to not necessarily don't give you the money, but don't give me the money just because it's me.
Ricardo from YourKeys, thank you so much for coming to see us.
Thank you.
We're going to go through a load of stuff today, right? Because we chatted off camera and we're going to talk about friends and family round, further rounds, the size of the industry, how you're disrupting it, all that sort of stuff, right? Which is really good. But we're going to get into how you even started, right? You're an architect by trade.
Yep.
Which kind of will make sense when they hear the story about how you get into it. So where did you start out before this?
So, like you say, architecture. My background, I absolutely adore design. I've always had a sort of passion for fixing problems, identifying sort of gaps in processes that don't work, and that's absolutely my passion. So architecture was sort of a natural fit for me. Went and worked for a company called Gensler, who are the biggest design firm in the world. Worked on some sort of massive scale corporate projects for some amazing companies like Apple, Facebook, the Shanghai Tower, super scale stuff.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest with you, got greedy. Went and worked for got poached from Gensler to work for a developer in central London.
Okay.
And they said, look, we want to do things differently. We want to approach the sales process differently. The way that we market our properties, the type of people that we're attracting, come in, set up a team. We're going to be starting projects in the sort of next quarter, and then we're going to be delivering a couple thousand units over the next 2 or 3 years. So, did that, basically, jumped into that. Relatively successful. You know, the market took a bit of a tumble at that point, which made it even more difficult. But you know, with sort of adversity drives creativity.
Of course.
So we did some sort of wacky stuff. You know, we did a pop-up marketing suite in Piccadilly Circus Station with sort of flash mobs and all sorts of stuff, trying to sell property, which was a little bit different. But the key thing that came out of it was looking after 2,000 property transactions and trying to reconcile where each of those...
Yeah, looking after one can be hard enough.
God, yeah, well, as a buyer, you know, it's massively stressful and you're only doing one.
Yeah.
Imagine when you're doing sort of 50 or 60 at a time. And that was the sort of genesis for YourKeys. How do we pull all of these stakeholders together and how do we make this process much easier for all parties? Yeah,
and we chatted a bit about off camera, and I said it in the intro as well, about you raised a friends and family round initially. That was the first round of funding was friends and family. And a lot of people come in and they do chat about friends and family rounds, and it's it can be quite a touchy subject, because what way do you approach it, right? For the entrepreneurs watching who may have a business idea and want to do something new, in your experience, what's the best way to approach it? Do you approach it as a family member? Do you approach it as if they're an actual investor? How you speak to them? What way did you do it?
You take them seriously, I would say, as a first bit of advice. You know, what we were talking about before, you know, when you raise a million, further down the line, it becomes just as important as that first £1,000 or £100 that you got into the bank initially. What I would say is absolutely be prepared and understand what you're going into, the timings and your requirements that you need. You know, you need to get as far down the line as possible on as little as possible. But when you're going out and you're talking to your friends and family, they inherently want to help you.
Yeah,
they're your support network. Absolutely, they want you to win, right? So most of the people that you approach at that stage will give you the money regardless, and they sort of see it as a loss leader, and you know they're sort of not bothered whether you make them a return or not. Don't look at it like that. Always talk to your friends and family as though they're a VC and they're giving you £1 million.
Yeah.
You know, tell them about the ambition, tell them about be sincere, be serious about it, and tell them to not necessarily don't give you the money, but don't give me the money just because it's me. Give me the money if you believe in this idea. The majority of them won't be seasoned investors, so they won't necessarily know what to look for.
Yeah, of course.
But make sure you're not sort of treating them as though it's a given, you know, because you'll feel better in yourself knowing that you've taken the money and that you've explained the reason why, and they believe in the idea and it's not just about you. You'll get bigger, and the reason that you'll drive, you'll get a drive and want to do well moving forward is because you've taken money off your friends and family early on.
Of course.
So you sort of have got this. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. I want to keep going because I've got X amount of my best mate's money. It's tied up in this.
It's an interesting one. How many is there an and there's probably no one black and white here, but is there a number that's too many, right? Should you just go, right, just get 5 people's money or 10 people's money? Don't go after like every single auntie, uncle, cousin you have in the whole family tree, because then it's too many. Is there any like sweet spot that you feel?
Well, it depends what you're doing and what your initial capital that you need is. I would say keep it as low as absolutely possible. And it comes back to trying to get as far down with as little as possible. The further you sort of go down the funding rounds, you want your cap table to have as fewer people on as possible.
Of course.
Because obviously, as you start to raise and the dilutions happen and X, Y, and Z, you want to have as fewer people as possible. But it's all about what you need at that point,
Of course.
When you're raising from some sort of bigger funds, it changes, and I suppose we'll get onto that as well.
Yeah, of course. So the friends and family round allowed you to start the business, accelerate the business to a certain amount. What has the subsequent rounds been like? Have you approached them with the same way you approach friends and family, like you said, like they're investors and taking their money, to accelerate the business? Have you viewed those rounds as the same, or have you approached them differently?
What you'll find is, or what we've found, and what a lot of the sort of entrepreneurs and founders that we speak to find, is the amount that you pivot as a business and the amount that the things that you thought were going to be important change throughout the journey is massive. So your requirements as a business change, your financing requirements change. I suppose in terms of who you're targeting, then it's high net worths that are in your sector. One of the best bits of advice that I ever got was, don't just fundraise for cash, fundraise for a black book or someone who can help you, or someone who's going to be a working investor, someone that's in the sector and that can offer advice. What we did early on was we had a couple of companies that wanted to give us all of our rounds. And believe it or not, you're rejecting money at that point. You're going from, okay, it's going to be much easier. I need £250,000 on EIS. It's going to be much easier to just get that done and crack on with the business. But actually, that's a single point of failure in terms of going back to your investors and trying to get advice and open doors and introduce you to people. If you say, right, I want 50k here, 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 and here, then you can sort of pick and choose because you've got a bit of a safety net over here that'll give you the cash if you need it. But the more doors that you've got and the more sort of routes to help you get to where you need to be, you should absolutely take that if you get the opportunity. Of
course, and just so the audience know, it's obviously it's a huge sector, right? It's massive. What real problem are you solving? Is it first of all, you're not solving one person's problem. You're solving, obviously that's why the business is going as well as it is, because you're solving several people's problems. What's the best way to explain the business, just to people watching?
So, from a consumer point of view, it's buying a house is the most stressful thing you ever go through in your life. It's undoubtable. You don't have to go too far and talk to too many people for them to recognise that that's the case. The reason that is because there's lots of stakeholders involved. It's full of jargon. It's difficult to understand. There's sort of arbitrary timelines in there. And everyone seems to be sort of rowing in different directions, and communication's generally poor.
Yeah.
So what we do is we digitize that journey and give the buyers in particular clarity and oversight over that process. So in the same way that, what's a good example? You go onto Amazon and you can see your £20 package that you've bought from Guangzhou in China. You can see it hitting the different distribution centres around the world.
Of course.
You've got a time that it's going to arrive. You've got where it is on the planet at any one point. Uber, you can get a £5 cab and you can see who it is, their star rating, what they've done previously. Yet for the most expensive thing you ever buy in your life, you have absolutely none of that. And as a result, about 40% of all property transactions break down and fall through. And 40? The ones that are 40.
Wow.
Yeah. And so 40 break down and fall through. And the average time that it takes to get to exchange of contracts is about 60 days. And the industry target is 28 days, so half of that.
Wow.
Only 5% of the industry hit that. So that's from a buyer's point of view. Now, from a developer's point of view, someone that's actually selling these properties, they're trying to do that, but exponentially. They're trying to do it across 40 or 50 concurrent purchases at any one time. So what we do is we have a sort of centralized milestone where the key is slowly moving through the various steps of the purchasing process to the house. Everyone can see what's going on, whose responsibility it is for the next task, what the anticipated dates are for hitting the next milestones, and gives everyone clarity and so that they can understand what's going on. So it's all about clarity and it's all about transparency of a process that has operated in the dark for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're actually nearly out of time, but I just want to ask one thing. We've interviewed a lot of people, right? Well over 2,000 people, and we get people that sometimes are completely outside the circle. We say they're not in the industry. They looked into the industry, went, that's not right, I need to change it, but they're outside the industry. And they say that's an advantage. And then there's people that have a background in the industry saying, I was in it, I lived through the pain, and that's my advantage. What's your thoughts? You were in the industry. Do you think that just exponentially helped you solve this problem? You understand it?
I say that I understood it. I don't think I did. I think I understood about 20% of it. You know? If there's 5 stakeholders in it, I was one.
Okay, right, yeah.
And I said that the way that I'm receiving this information about this process is wrong. But actually, in order to solve that, I need to solve everyone else's problems. So it was a massive learning curve for me. One of the most interesting things is you can do all the focus groups that you like and use as much knowledge as you like in the sort of development of the product or your business strategy. But when the rubber hits the road, you know, you very quickly recognize that you got about 80% of your assumptions correct.
Right.
And it's then about how agile you are, how adaptive and how driven you are to solve those problems before you run out of money.
Of course,
You know?
yeah.
Because you have to demonstrate a certain amount of traction in order to justify your next raise. So you're constantly against the clock. But if you've got sheer determination and you're willing to work hard, then that's the only advice I'd say I can give you.
It's good advice. It's good advice. Like, I'm sure the audience learned a lot from that. Ricardo, thank you so much for coming into us.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.